how you can apply cheats and patches to your PS4 and PS5 games. So cheats are pretty self-explanatory, but patches can be used to unlock the frame rates to take a game that is locked at, say, 30 FPS and run it at 60 FPS or higher for a smoother gameplay experience, and enable debug and developer menus that are built within the game that are just disabled by default. You can re-enable them with patches, and even disable screen effects like motion blur, film grain, or chromatic aberration, which a lot of people find irritating, and normally you cannot disable those on a console game, but you can with patches. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at here in this video. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make sure we have a network connection. By going into the settings, go into network settings, make sure connect to the internet is selected. And obviously you want to make sure that under your advanced settings, you do have the primary DNS set to 127.0.0.1, which of course we set up in the first video in the playlist on how to set up the jailbreak in the first place. So you want to be connected to your network that way. And then we can go onto our payload manager and run the nano DNS payload. And that will give us an internet connection on the PS5, which will make it much easier for getting the cheats installed. So once we have that up and running, we also want to run KStuff version 1.09, so we can get that loaded as well. Now you do want version 1.09 of KStuff Lite, or the original KStuff 1.6.7. Any older versions of KStuff Lite will not work with all of the sheets because there was an issue on previous versions of KStuff Lite where certain sheets would not work because ASLR was not being disabled, but that has been fixed in version 1.09. So if you are using a previous version like 1.08 or 1.07, you can go into the Manage Payload section and you should be able to update KStuff Lite from in here to version 1.09. So that's what we want to do there. We also want the FTP server payload, which you can install from the list here, the cloud repository. You can also install, of course, KStuff Lite from the cloud repository as well. You can just install those payloads. And then what we can do is head over to the dashboard section and run the FTP server payload and note down the IP address that shows up there in that notification. So 193.168.137.176. Okay, so that's what we want there. So at this point, we can switch on over to our computer to get everything else installed. So to run our cheats, we want to use the Cheat Runner tool that you can download here, cheatrunner.elf from Not Major. I'll leave this link to the video description. For the patches, what we're going to do is use this PS patch system from Illusion. We can go to the releases section here and download the patch bundle loader for prospero.elf, which is the PS5 version. So we want to download that. And if we go back out to the README section here as well, if we scroll down, we can see we have extract and upload patch1.zip. We need to also download this patch1.zip file that contains all of the patches. So those are the things we need to download. So now if we open up an FTP client like FileZilla on our computer and type in the IP address of the PS5 into the host box, which in my case was 137.176, and then the port number, which is 2121, and we can quick connect to access the console. You can use any other file manager like the web-based file manager or local file managers on the console like PS5 Explorer, whatever you want to use here. We just need a way to access the file system of the console. So from here, what we can do is go into the data folder, and inside the data folder, we're going to right-click and create a new directory, which is going to be called user. And then inside the user folder, we're going to extract our patches. So the patch1.zip file will extract the patches over to our desktop, and that will get the patch folder extracted. And then we just take this patches folder here and we drag and drop it into the user folder on our console, and that will upload all of the patches. So we'll just give that some time to finish, and you can see it's got all of the patches now added. For our games, that's what we want to do to install the patches, but we still need to install the payloads. Obviously, you can copy these payloads to the root of a USB drive, and then plug that USB drive into the PS5. Make sure Scan USB Payloads is enabled, and then you can, of course, go to the Manage Payload section, scroll down to the bottom, find the payloads that are on the USB, and then you can copy them or move them to the internal storage to install them with the Payload Manager. That's one method. The other option to install the payloads is to just open up a web browser on your computer or your phone where you have the payloads downloaded to, and then simply type in the IP address of the PS5 with :8084, which will take you over to the payload manager here, and then you can go to Manage Payloads on your computer and upload an ELF payload, and then simply select the payload that you want to add, like the Cheat Runner, and we can go ahead and install that payload, and then we can do the same thing with the patch bundle one as well, and that will get them installed and ready to load. We go back onto our PS5 and refresh the dashboard section in Payload Manager by hitting Options and reloading. We can see we now have the cheat runner installed, as well as having the patch bundle loader here as well. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and load the cheat runner first. So we'll select that, and that starts it up. It also installs a package file, as you can see there. And then we'll do the same with the patch bundle loader. This one takes a bit longer to start up. Give it about, I would say, 10 seconds or so for it to fully start up. Patch web elf start. And there it goes, it opens up the web page. So if I go to the PS4 section here, we can see all the patches that we installed earlier with FTP are now showing up. So first of all, I'm going to use Bloodborne as an example, because of course Bloodborne has the famous 60 FPS patch and a bunch of other patches available for it. So if I press Options on the game that I want to apply patches for, or cheats, and I go to Information, we want to make sure we know what game version the game is running. So in this case, I have Bloodborne running version 1.09. So we want to make a mental note of what update we have for the game. Also, if we go to the Media section, we have the cheat runner here. So if we run the cheat runner, and if we hit the refresh button, it should display all of our installed applications, all of our games. And if we go to Bloodborne, we can see there are cheats available for Bloodborne. Now, the reason why we come in here is that we want to see what the title ID of the game is as well. So we can see it's CUSA ZU3173. So what I can do is go over to the Patch Manager, which there's also a shortcut created for here on the home page. So I can open up the Patch Manager. I can go to PS4. I can search for the game that I want to apply a patch for, which in this case is Bloodborne. I'll select Bloodborne. And then here we can see there's a lot of patches for version 1.09, but the title ID of my version of Bloodborne was 03173, so this is the one I want to use, Bloodborne 1.09. So I'll select it, and here are all of the patches that we can apply. So we can apply the skip intro patch, so it gets into the main menu faster. We'll also disable, say, motion blur, so we can disable that. We can also enable the 60 FPS with delta time. We can enable that too. And then, of course, we can also do stuff like enable the debug camera, which we can enable here by pressing X and L3 at the same time to enter FreeCam modes. So I'll also enable that. So there's a few patches there that we have enabled for the game. To prevent the Patch Manager shortcut from disappearing, you also want to press the Options button over the shortcut and select the option to keep in home to keep it on the home page. So all I should have to do is load the game in order for those patches to take effect. So we'll load up Bloodborne. Now, because I'm on a higher firmware, it does this whole thing where it loses signal and then regains signal, but you can see there we do get a notification saying 4 patches have been applied, and we can see we got straight into the main menu, so it skipped the intros, it got us straight into the main menu, and it says the 60 FPS patch has been applied, so we can hit continue. I don't know how well it comes across on YouTube here, but I can tell by the feel of the game, this is definitely running a lot smoother than normal Bloodborne, so this is 60 FPS, and also without any motion blur, so everything's a lot clearer, which is very nice. So those are the patches applied. That's an example of what you can do with the patches. I can also enable the debug camera as well, and I can kind of no-clip anywhere I want within the level, because I applied that patch as well. There's also like a whole debug menu that you can enable as well for this game. So you can find that with a bunch of games as well, developer and debug menus that you can also enable, which is one of the features that you have with patches. So anyway, let's go ahead and switch back to the normal camera. What about cheats though? So for cheats, obviously you can access the cheats as I showed before on the console itself. If you don't want to use another device, you can just, go into the web page here and enable the cheats. You can absolutely do that. But honestly, it's better to use another device. So to access the cheat runner remotely, you just type in the IP address of your PS5 into the URL bar of your internet browser on another device that's on the same network as your PS5, with colon 49s after it for the port number, and that should take you over to the cheat runner remotely. We've got Bloodborne here. We can go to cheats, and you can see it automatically detects the correct version of the game that's being loaded, and then it will also select a cheat version that it recommends that you use here. Now you can install additional cheats by going to the repository section here, and you can literally just download all sources, so basically 4 different repos that will download cheats from. There will be duplicates, of course, but you can get a lot of cheats available for your games by just downloading all the sources. You may also need to reload the web page after downloading new cheats in order for them to appear. You can also install the cheats manually if you're not able to download from the cheat repository for whatever reason. Again, with FTP or another file manager in the data folder, once you run the cheat runner payload, it will create a cheat runner folder in the data folder, and in there you have a cheats folder with the JSON cheats in here, and then MC4 and SHN. You can see they're all empty right now, but you can just download the cheats manually on your computer for the Gold Hen cheats or the PS5 cheat repository. I'll leave a couple of them in the video description that contain a bunch of JSON cheats, MC4 cheats, and SHN cheats, and you can basically extract these folders, for instance, in here and copy them over, and that will install them manually if you're not able to just use the option to download them directly on the console over the internet. So you can see here, we've got this one that's automatically selected. Now, generally, it tends to select JSON cheats. So, for instance, JSON cheats are normally selected because the cheat runner can actually tell, what the default values and addresses are of those cheats, and it can compare them with the data that is in memory for the game. So it will be able to tell if there's maybe a cheat that might not work or that is likely to cause a crash. So it will select a JSON cheat by default. So you can see here, I can already tell that infinite health, there's a version mismatch. So if I tried to enable this, it would likely crash the game, but luckily it's preventing me from loading that cheat because it's detected there's an issue there. So that's one of the advantages here with the JSON cheat files. You can also select another cheat. You can see there's other exact matches. There's ones that are for the wrong game version, so we obviously don't want to enable those, but we do have other cheat files that are an exact match, and the SHN and MC4 ones tend to have more cheat options, so we can go ahead and select, say, one of these SHN cheats. That's for the correct version, and I can select that one instead. However, because it's not a JSON cheat file, it's not able to verify if the cheats are going to work or not. So it says unverified mode, this cheat file has no expected bytes. Now you might also get an error message that says it won't even allow you to use the cheat because you're in safe mode. You can disable safe mode by going into the settings here and change it to max compatibility, which will let you use all of the cheats. It'll let you override its safety mechanisms and use any cheat that you want. But just bear in mind that any of these cheats that are not verified means that they might potentially crash the game, because the cheat runner's not able to tell if they're likely to work or not. Okay, so this one has infinite HP plus 1-hit kill. Let's go ahead and enable that. And then we also have infinite stamina. I'll go ahead and enable that. So I'll just leave those two on for now. So infinite health plus 1-hit kill and infinite stamina. So if I go back onto the game, those cheats should be applied. Now, when you enable and disable a cheat, for instance, it should pop up a message on screen. As you can see there, it says when the cheat is enabled or disabled, whenever you turn it on and off. So if we go ahead and try and find some enemies to attack here and see if this works, you can see as I'm sprinting, we're not losing any stamina, so infinite stamina is working. Okay, here we go. I found an enemy, and he's attacking me, and you can see I'm not losing any health. So that is indeed working. Infinite health is working, and it should be 1-hit kill, and it is 1-hit kill. So there we go. That is basically how you enable your cheats for your games. Now, of course, this is a PS4 game, but the same thing applies to PS5 games as well. So if we go back into the cheat runner here, one of the other things you can do, it does allow you to drop an MC4, SHN, or JSON cheat file here, or click to browse your computer. So if you have a cheat file that's not included in the repository, if somebody sends you a cheat file, or you find one somewhere that you want to try, you can just drag it in here, drag and drop it on top of here, and it should load and allow you to start applying those cheats. So you also have the option to do that as well. Now, patches are actually supported in here. You can install patches. It doesn't really work properly right now because it wants you to apply the patches once the game is loaded, and that's not really how patches are meant to work, because things like the skip intro patch, for instance, isn't going to work if you apply it after the game's already loaded. So that's kind of the issue with Cheat Runner when it comes to patches right now. But I think that's just because the developer's been primarily focused on implementing the cheats first and getting that working as well as it can before moving on to kind of polishing the patch implementation. But eventually we should be able to load cheats and patches properly all through the Cheat Runner, which would be great. So yeah, anyway, that is basically how we get that going. I can also go ahead and do Demon Souls as well. So this is a PS5 game. So here's a native PS5 game running, and I can also enable the same kind of cheats with Demon Souls as well, like infinite health, one-hit kill. Also max out the number of souls in-game and do infinite stamina, infinite items, all of that stuff that you can enable there as well. I think Demon Souls also has like a debug menu or free camera thing you can enable too, through the patches. There are also standalone trainer tools that remotely connect to the console to apply cheats, and they normally require the PS5 debug payload, which you can also find inside the payload manager. You just run the payload and connect the tool to start applying the cheats. So anyway, that's going to basically do it here for this one. So hope you guys enjoyed this video or found